Our money lead now, we are continuing with our series, hearing directly from small business owners from coast to coast about how Trump's tariffs have affected them directly. Some have been happy with the tariffs, many are not. My guests today are Ed and Becky Morgan, who own and operate Quicken Farms in West Virginia. Ed and Becky, thanks so much for joining us, and thank you for introducing us to your cattle over there. Your farm is the only livestock producer processor in West Virginia. What products do you sell that are most impacted right now?
Just about any meat product, any protein product, and it's impacted because of the excuse me, because of the packaging. We have to basically it's plastic bags or some of the equipment is it's definitely raised the prices. For example, we just placed a bag order. We buy the bags once a year. Typically, our bag orders between $1,500 to about $1,750 a year. Just here, like 4 days ago, it was almost $2,600. And we're going to do the very best that we can to not pass that added expense on to the consumer. But I'll tell you, it's going to be tough. It's we don't work on these huge margins, so it's going to be rather difficult.
Well, what is your margin, if you don't mind asking? Because most of the business owners we've talked to, their margin is somewhere between 5 and 8%.
That's generous. I think you'll find most people are going to be like us, and we don't get a paycheck. There is no paycheck to us. We just kind of have to figure ourselves into part of the budget to keep the lights on. It's not a separate business; it's our way of life. So, yeah, our margins right now, before the markup, is probably 5, maybe 6%.
Yeah. President Trump is hinting at a deal right now that would come soon with China. Would lower tariffs make a significant difference for you, or has so much already happened that it's going to be tough for you to recover from this year?
I think I appreciate any forward movement myself. I definitely appreciate it. I think, unfortunately, it's not just the tariffs that are causing the problem. It's just overall uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 hours. Something absolutely could change 180 degrees, just like what we're seeing right now. He's talking about all but removing the tariff from China.
Trump administration. Go ahead, keep going.
Go ahead, keep going. Oh no, just like it's just so hard because everything is up in the air. Like, we're having calves right now. We don't know whether to hold them back or sell them. We don't know what to plan on. And for us, everything has to be planned so far out in advance. The uncertainty hurts more, honestly, than what the individual prices do. We stand a chance of overcoming prices. We can't overcome uncertainty.
Yeah. And meanwhile, obviously, the Trump administration cutting a lot of programs. They slashed the budget for the Department of Agriculture's Farm to School program recently, which I understand you were part of. What parts of your operation have been hit because of the funding cut for Farm to School?
About 45%. We were fortunate enough to be able to supply several local school districts in our area. And unfortunately, some of them aren't able to continue because they don't have that additional funding. It makes it very difficult.
It stops any expansion too. We had hopes of building ourselves up with the school systems because that's a good steady paycheck. It's fulfilling a contracted order that we can rely on.
It's
and now,
manageable.
Yeah, any chance of expansion now, though, is gone without the funding.
Becky Morgan from West Virginia, thank you so much. Keep in touch with us. God bless.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Stocks are rebounding as the White House seemingly backtracks on tariffs and the potential for the firing of the Fed Chair Jerome Powell. But do you fear at all that permanent damage has been done, just in the sense of the unpredictability, the instability, the capriciousness of the president's economic policies?
That is a concern. What we're seeing is stocks sort of react to any beacon of light amidst this storm of trade wars and the flurry of 178 executive orders or proclamations trying to change even the independence of independent agencies, including the Federal Reserve. And those are still out there. We've also seen a lot of movement on tariffs for everything from unfair trade practices, dumping, to national security matters, to other issues that are more permanent than those that are just signed by executive order, the emergency use of the tariffs that we're seeing out there. And that is something important, too, because it means that this administration, for the talk of wanting to bring back tariffs a bit and de-escalate with China, that's going to require a lot of negotiation, which the Treasury Secretary himself has already described as going to be quite a slog.
Yeah, speaking of the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, he spoke at an economic event earlier today, and he signaled a willingness to work with other countries, including China, as you know. Take a listen.
China's current economic model is built on exporting its way out of its economic troubles. It's an unsustainable model that is not only harming China, but the entire world. We want to help it change because we need rebalancing too.
Bessent later told reporters that it could take 2 to 3 years to fully rebalance trade with China. Can the Trump administration really force China, or at least work with China, to get a successful change of its economic model? And are tariffs the way to do that?
Well, those are two very different questions. Sure, they could work with China, and I think we should be working with China to get a better balance between the two countries, and there needs to be issues addressed. There were issues that could have been addressed by other trade pacts, like that was negotiated many years ago and rejected by this administration as well, and that's important. I think from the perspective of tariffs, we all understand they sound good in theory, but in reality, the economic evidence on them is pretty unequivocal, and I think that's what the president had to hear from the CEOs, that bare shelves is exactly what we're hearing as well. Some are not ordering anything at all, which means shortages, and their supply chains with China that you just can't replace. There's no substitute. And I think that's something that gets lost in translation, that when you're cutting off trade with a country that you don't have any substitutes for, that's not only going to be costly, there's going to be actual shortages of things that are very important.
Diane Swonk, thanks so much. Appreciate your time. Let's bring in Republican strategist T.W. Arrighi and former communications director for Vice President Harris, Ashley Etienne. T.W., let me start with you. Does it concern you at all that there's this ongoing internal campaign at the White House to try to make President Trump understand the real world impact of these tariffs? Do you think that it at all is part of the concern some people have about the president and economic credibility?
Sort of. I'd be surprised if it didn't happen. Look, I don't think President Trump was under any illusion that this would be a rocky road implementing these policies. And obviously, with Peter Navarro and Scott Bessent, you have a diversity of opinion. I think what's really shaken the White House has been the bond market, currency going the wrong way, and things that were supposed to happen when we implemented tariffs, a stronger currency, for example, they haven't borne fruit. So now with back to school shopping around the corner, obviously Christmas, there's going to be dissent in, well, how do we play this moving forward?
And I have to say, Ashley, maybe you disagree with me, but when I think about what the Democratic Party on Capitol Hill, not brilliant consultants like you, but the Democratic Party on Capitol Hill, what they've been talking about for the last 2 weeks, it seems like a lot of them have been talking about the undocumented immigrant, who beat his wife and is now in El Salvador, as opposed to all this economic turmoil that I would theoretically think would be something the Democrats would want to talk about a lot more.
Well, Jake, I was just on the phone with the Democratic Party, the DNC. They had a call for folks like me, to your point, the smart consultants, to educate them on where the party is and what the party's working on. And they've, over the last week during the most recent recess, and they're continuing to do this, they're having these town halls that are hyper-focused on the economy and Trump's mishandling of the economy. What they're seeing right now is the plurality of these polls where American people are starting to feel the impact of not just these tariffs, but that life is more expensive under Donald Trump. The plurality of the polls are saying that the American people disagree with Trump's positioning and approach to the economy as well as to the tariffs. So they're trying at their best to take full advantage of it, but outside of the Beltway, in these not just blue districts, but in the red districts, in the red state. You said you guys are going to West Virginia. There are headlines in West Virginia that are saying Trump's tariffs are going to cost the state $3 billion. The Democratic Party is trying to exploit that, and I think it's really starting to have an impact.